All right, thanks, Karen. And hey, everybody. Excuse my technology dilemma that I have in the Hoffman household. I am going to have that worked out by the next time we get together. But hey, I hope y'all are well and just excited to just kind of really, share where we're at, everything that's happening. So I hope what's going on in your business is, the same as what we're seeing in our business. There's been fantastic change. There's been a new group of leaders and a new administration that has ears to hear. More importantly, I think than anything, is we have a slow comeback to the Harlan Stonecipher, days of DNA. Equal justice under law is a reality. What we're doing with identity theft is a reality, and just a lot of great things. So, hey, the idea of tonight and every night going forward is just first kind of a leadership principle, different things that successful people do from a leadership perspective, building a foundation in business. And I went back to a book that I read over 20 years ago, and many of you have seen this individual. I'll never forget Teresa Johnson when we had Miles Monroe in Philadelphia. And as I introduced Miles and spent some time with Miles on stage, and he shared, his message that day. Teresa, I'll never forget your face and kind of that revelation knowledge, that you had. Along with many others, many others. He was a dear friend, him and Ruth, to Darcy and I. He was one of our mentors. But becoming a leader, if you haven't read the book, I encourage you to do so. And as I'm just going back over some of my leadership, principles, practices, you guys know that I keep the main thing. My associations, I've been extremely blessed to have. Paul Meyer, Miles Monroe, Rip Mason's a good dear friend, Jeff Roberti back in the NSA days, Cheryl Cortese. So just a couple of thoughts, in becoming a leader, everyone can do it. All right. Leaders aren't born. If you're taking notes, you want to take notes. Leaders aren't born, leaders are made. All right. Great leaders never desire to lead, but they do desire to serve. I am right now on a board of directors, my wife and I, with Matthew 10 Ministries. And we are working diligently to serve and to end slavery in places like Pakistan. Pakistan will tell you there's no slavery. But the way they bring these families and these children into the brickyards, they spend 30, 40, 50 years trying to work off debt that they got from these business owners that they can never work off. And we are setting these folks free. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I don't ever need my name associated with the doggone thing. I'm not interested in leading, I'm interested in serving. But because of that serving, guess what? Great leaders can arise. And when you think of great leaders, Ronald Reagan, he didn't really desire to lead. He started by serving. He couldn't stand communism, and look at what he did. John Wooden, he didn't really desire building NBA or college championships. He desired making men out of the people that he had in front of him. Harlan Stonecipher, Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King didn't dream of leading. He served. He served the masses. He knew there was a need. He brought a solution, and guess what? Became the leader that he was today. Gandhi didn't desire leading, but he did desire serving, and because of serving, one of the greatest leaders of all time. Developing character and vision, just a critical way. Serving others is finding a need and filling it. That's what each one of us do. That's why we are so bought in to who Legal Shield is and what they stand for: equal justice under law. remedying the fastest growing white collar crime, identity theft. It's just an amazing thing because each one of us are serving. And because of that desire to serve with our vision and our character, our integrity, we grow into a great leadership role. You become a leader when you decide not to be a copy, but an original. If you're taking notes, put that down. You become a leader when you decide not to be a copy. Don't ever try to be like someone else. Be the original you were created to be. And if you are taking notes, put this there. Trust in your creator's design. There's nothing I love more than in our coaching model, tell me, show me, let me, grow me, looking at the gifts and the strengths and the interests of Karen Irish Borrego and speaking to and complimenting what her design is and what she wants to do. Spending time with a Tony Petrill, and looking at and complimenting the strengths and the desires that he has. So this individual I'd like to introduce to you right now is a dear friend of mine. Many of you have seen him. He spoke at one of our conferences, I think maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago. Is that what it was? His name is Chip. He's behind me laughing. His name is Chip Eichelberger. He is a keynote speaker and trainer, worldwide. He started his career as a frontman for Tony Robbins in Australia. And as a young man, he was Tony's main guy in selling and marketing who Tony Robbins was in the beginning. He was close to Tony. Tony was a mentor. That's no.
That's like Phil Mickelson. They're interviewing Tiger Woods and they go, Tiger Woods, 1998 US Open champion, 1998 British Open champion, 1999.
Okay.
Players, he goes, that's enough. Phil Mickelson, go, that's enough. Yeah.
I will say this, I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud that I've been able to associate with him, work with him. And the work he's done over the last 30 years has been paramount in changing and touching lives. And he and I are agreeing on one big thing, and the number one asset in any of our lives is you. So Chip, take a second, talk to these amazing leaders and have a minute with them, would you?
Cool. Hey, everybody. Reminded me of a story. I've done 1,000 events over the last 30 years. And one of the most unique was pre-COVID, was invited up for Dow AgroSciences, was up in Canada and in the prairie provinces of Canada. I don't know if you have any people from Canada here, not where you want to be in Manitoba or Saskatchewan in February. And so my role was, we had a bus tour. We're doing 4 events in 5 days, and I'm in front of 300 old white Canadian farmers every morning, looking at me like this. And a very tough group to connect with. And if you've ever been up the prairie provinces, we're not talking 200 or 300 acre farms. We're talking thousands of acres. They've got those GPS controlled combines now out there. And I'm thinking, how am I going to relate? And I asked the farmers, I said, hey, what's your number one asset? And, you're thinking, geez, I got to have the equipment. I got to have the land, the weather. I got to have the people. And I said, in your operation, your number one asset is you. You got to think, hey, taking long-term care of myself is probably the best decision you're going to make, because you got to think everybody on the call here, you're entrepreneurs, you're working hard, you're sacrificing for the future. Well, you got to get your camera better.
I know.
Terrible. My God, I look like But anyway, you got to think, what's my end game is one day, my goal is to retire. I want to take this wealth. And I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn. If you haven't listened to The Art of Exceptional Living, you can listen to it for YouTube on free. But it's really to live an exceptional life. And I think life of an entrepreneur, that's one of the best things, where you can call your own shots. That's why many of you in this. But your end goal is to have the physical and mental capacity to really enjoy the rest of your life. So I think the decision you got to make for long-term sustained success is to take care of your number one asset, and that's you. And if you look at the current numbers in America, if you think about, Michigan State did the most exhaustive study on lifestyle, a guy named Matthew Reeves. And if you're thinking about what percentage of people in America lead a healthy lifestyle, and that's categorized by 4 things. Number 1, don't smoke or chew tobacco. If you currently smoke or chew tobacco, you may want to Google that. They pretty much concluded that it's a long-term, filthy, disgusting, expensive habit. All the information about not smoking, and you go, I think it's still a good choice for me. I think you got to reevaluate that, right? Don't smoke, healthy weight range for your body, pretty basic. At least 5 fruits and vegetables a day. National Cancer Institute says you need to do at least 9 servings. And if you want the best life hack to make it to 90 healthfully, write down in Google, get switched on smoothie recipe. Chip Eichelberger, get switched on smoothie. There'll be a PDF of a very low sugar, high green smoothie. I've been doing it pretty much every day for 30 years. I recommend it very highly. Build your immune system, build your energy level, make you regular as hell. No more stool softener ever for you. That stuff flies through you, gives you quick energy. And the last thing is, it's a good thing to write down, motion is medicine. At least 5 days a week, 30 minutes aerobic. Many people don't know what aerobic means. Aerobic means exercise with oxygen. The healthier body is the healthier cells. Long-term studies on taking cells, keeping them with oxygen, they're really never going to die. So 30 minutes oxygenating your system, getting your heart rate up. So what percentage of people don't smoke, healthy weight range for their body, 5 fruits and vegetables, and get 30 minutes of aerobic 5 days a week? I don't know what any guesses out there, but they came up with 3% of the countries leading a healthy lifestyle. Because the #1 killer in America, everybody, because the biggest epidemic you may be aware of is type 2 diabetes. Right now, we have 1 in 10 Americans are type 2 diabetics. 1 in 3 are type 2, are pre-diabetic, and 80% of them don't even know it. That's the biggest problem. You look at all the problems with COVID, average person who died, I think, was almost 6 comorbidity factors, and obesity was #1. So what I would just try to get in this short call here that you think about is, how well am I taking care of my #1 asset? Tony Robbins used to say, great quote, quality of your life is the quality of your questions. And that's a good question. How well am I taking care of myself right now? What's my energy level? What's my health? How's my immune system? How's my mobility? And motion is medicine consistently. Because the #1 thing that's going to derail you long-term, Jim Rohn talked about the subtlety of failure, right? Failure is a few errors in judgment repeated day after day after day. And the problem is, at the end of the day, you commit that error, there's not enough pain to get you to change. And it's really about neglect. Because from a health standpoint, you never want to go to the doctor and this doctor says, John, I wish we'd have caught that earlier.
That's right.
You want to be a little bit proactive. So I would say, ask yourself, how well am I taking care of my #1 asset right now? Where's my energy? Jim Rohn used to say, great line, used to say, how much overweight should you be at 50? That's a good line. I'm 62. I don't know about you. I'm going for 100. Because there's people in your lives right now, and that's that's one of the things Tony used to say is, you want to live a long time, eat a little. Because one of the key characteristics of people over 80 and healthy, they're all thin. So we know people who are 80 who are mentally sharp. We know people 85, 90. You might know somebody 95, but you also know people who are 54 and old and decrepit, right? So you got to think about, where am I right now? Am I neglecting myself? Because if you say, hey, Chip, I'm busy, I'm building my business, I don't have time to take care of myself. Well, you don't have time not to. Because what's going to happen is, one day it's going to build up those little errors day after day, that neglect. You're going to feel a little off. And you're going to go to the doctor. The doctor's going to run some tests and you're going to say, hey, I hate to tell you, you got X. Now you got major time, major money, major stress, major effort, trying to reverse something you could have avoided. So think about, why are you in the business? He talked about service, but to give to others, you got to take great care of yourself, right? You've got to serve yourself. So think, how well am I taking care of my #1 asset? If I continue right now with the habits I have and the routine I have right now, where's that going to get me in 10, 20, 30 years? Am I going to be in shape to enjoy all the success I have? Am I going to be in shape to be around with my grandkids and my great grandkids one day? Because, it's hard to build this business. And it's really hard to fail. It's hard to have a great long-term successful marriage. And I've heard from a lot of friends, it's very hard to get divorced. It's hard to have the discipline to get up, and all the research shows, when's the best time to exercise, right? First thing in the morning, get up, energize your system, hydrate consistently, deep breathing, get out there and move. It's hard to have the discipline to do that, but it's hard to be sick and to have this ease in your body. So I would think right now, ask yourself, number one, how well you taking care of your number one asset? Quick little tip I can give you, download that Get Switched On smoothie recipe. If you go to my YouTube channel, I actually just uploaded another video of me making it today. And I would say from a motion is medicine standpoint, one little life hack I can give you. I was going to do this from my house. I was going to show it to you, but we're at John's. Google Get Switched On energy schedule. And it's something to put on the mirror in your bathroom. And it's about, what's the basic personal development principle? I hold myself accountable so I can measure my results, right?
That's good.
Hold myself accountable so I can measure my results. So if you're going to say, hey, how many presentations I'm doing, it's good to measure that per week. What's my closing ratio? You got to measure that. But there's some personal things, whether it's, my dad passed away. It's been 13 years. He would have been married to my mom 60 years that following July. He taught me the difference between a vacation and what am I saying? A trip and a vacation. Sorry, it's late night. Had a glass of wine. A trip and a vacation. If you got kids, you know what a trip is. You take the kids with you. A vacation is when you leave them home, right? So you got to have a vacation. You got to have the date nights, taking out, going to the concerts, going to the plays, doing the fun things. You got to keep score there. But this Get Switched On energy schedule is a way to keep score. And you put it on the mirror in your bathroom. It says very simply, I must work out. It doesn't say I should. I must work out how many days a month. And you declare, I'm going to take care, because I think from scripturally, but many Christians on the call probably, it says in the Bible, I will treat my body as a temple of the Holy Spirit, right? Even if you go back to Aramaic, you can't get outhouse out of that. It doesn't say treat your body as an outhouse, it says treat your body as a temple. So one of the decisions you got to make is how often you're going to exercise your temple. So it says, I will do it at least that many days. And bonus tip, it needs to be double digits. My number's been 18 for the last 30 years. And it's a 6-month calendar. And the key thing, it says, I must do that number. But then right below, you have to put your oath. You have to sign it. And it's not your name, it's your signature, it's your promise, it's your oath to take better care of yourself. Okay. Then it'll say month, it'll say May, and has 31 boxes. Then it says goal, actual, and your weight. And you say, hey, my goal's 15, fantastic. And you fill in the little boxes, end of the month, count them up. What did you do? Track your weight. Next month, same thing. Plus there's 5 tips for health, energy, and vitality right there. So key thing I would say is it's about decision making. You're really only one new decision from changing everything in your life. And the Latin root of the decision, CIS, means to cut off or kill. I think a lot of people have lost that ability to make a decision. I used to do that. I'm going to start doing this. Write it down, display it, and track it. That's one of the key things right there. For you to lead others, you got to lead yourself. Because if you're not taking care of yourself right now, that lack of energy impacts your ability. Because John talked about activity, and I agree, it's activity. But as you all know, because you're successful, it's about your attitude and your activity. Just can't have good activity with a crappy attitude. You got to have the attitude. So if you're not somebody right now who gets up and moves because your belief is, well, I've never been a morning person. Well, you can change that, because I believe in the power of one in a row. Any streak starts with one new decision, right? So if you make a decision to start investing more in yourself, take a little bit more time, try that Get Switched On smoothie 4 or 5 days a week, try getting up and moving yourself a little bit, start tracking, you're going to get momentum. Because I think a lot of life is momentum. And hopefully one day you're going to look back at this call and say, hey, that was a day I made a decision to take better care of myself. Because if you're not doing it right now, when are you going to start? I would say step up right now, putting better things in, right? You are what you eat, but also getting out and moving. Motion is medicine. It's very, very simple. So Google that smoothie, Google that Get Switched On energy schedule, sign it, put it up. I guarantee massive changes are possible for you. So hope that added value to you guys, because life is short. You never know what's going to happen. But I guarantee 10 or 15 years from now, you look back and say, hey, I'm glad I got some better health principles in my life because it made a big difference for me. So there you go.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you. All right. I've known this guy a long time. I got good notes. And what I'm going to ask Chip to do is because this organization we speak of family, we speak of fitness, speak of finances, we speak of fundamentals, we speak of fun, and we talk about the 7 F's. So he has a tremendous series that he has been committed to for quite a while on health. Again, getswitchedon.com. You got the energy one about the smoothies. Go there, check it out. And I'm going to ask him to, maybe commit to doing a little bit of a series with us with this organization, just because of what this organization means to me. So more of that to come. And one of the things in there that I thought was fantastic, I've not heard this in a while, but the quality of life has to do with the quality of our questions. Gosh, I hope you got that in your notes. That's critical. That also takes me back to something you and I are familiar with, and that's the slight edge principle. It's the simple daily disciplines. You don't have to get up tomorrow morning and go spend 2 hours in the gym. That's not what we're talking about. But if you can get up tomorrow morning and put emotion into motion, and maybe it's just one walk around the neighborhood. Maybe, as Chip was saying, that's your one. That's your start. Instead of, ham and eggs and bacon and toast, maybe it's the smoothie, and then you're having a good lunch. Or maybe you do like I do, an intermittent fast. Darcy and I try not to eat past 7 o'clock, and we don't eat until noon the next day. Our body is able to fast that entire time and have a recovery time. So it's just some of those little things, but more than anything, I'm excited about bringing these types of things to you. Tony, that Michigan State plug, I'm completely against, but we'll go with it tonight. Oh my gosh, the Spartans. He's an Oregon Duck too, of all things. I hesitated having him because he's from Oregon. Sorry, Karen. Okay. Karen, I'll turn it back to you. Appreciate you guys. And we're at about halfway through the hour. So we did our deal.
Okay. Well, Tony, do you have any idea, Paul Archuleta, of any role playing that we want to do? Or does anybody have any questions? Mr. Petrell. Hey, I thought
Tony's quiet. That's never happened before.
it's it's really quiet.
There we go.
Hey,
I was
Ron
not
and Tony,
allowed to unmute.
can you tell us, since you both work a lot in the employee benefit division, what do you say when you're calling someone to get an appointment?
That I'll bring a smoothie. No, I'm just kidding.
Well said. Well said. That was good.
So here's the thing that I think is interesting, right? And it plays right along with what Chip talked about. And when I was with Northwestern Mutual Life, people would say, well, what's the rate of return on this life insurance? And what's the rate of return on this? And what's the rate of return? And how am I going to get, what's the percentage I'll get on this? And finally, I looked at them and I said, you're so worried about the percentage you're getting, but you're only putting away 1% of your money. If you did what successful people do and put away 10 or 15% of your money, it doesn't really matter what percent you're getting. You will crush anyone who's putting away 1% of their money, and they could be getting 100% interest. So what I say to get an appointment doesn't matter near as much as the fact that I'm calling a ton of companies. And when you call a ton of companies, guess what? You'll learn what works and what doesn't. And if you're going to say, well, I'm going to have 7 apples on Saturday night because they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, so I'll just do 7 on Saturday night. Well, great. Welcome to throwing up on Saturday night. So, right, what Chip was saying was you don't work out 2 hours and then cut it for the rest of the week, right? And in Legal Shield, you got to do Legal Shield a little bit every day. Just because I go to a Chinese restaurant doesn't mean I'm Chinese. Just because you did a Legal Shield today, doesn't mean you're going to be a ringer. Doesn't mean you're going to get in Performance Club in one day. It's the little stuff, right? So I say that to just echo what Chip talked about, because when I first started calling companies, Karen, you have to hear this. We're in our apartment. I'm in debt. I've got a card table where the legs fold up, a card table with some 3x5 cards and a phone, and that's it. And Tanya was outside and she said, hey, what do you want to do later on? I said, well, I can't right now. I'm phoning companies. She goes, okay, fine, we'll go ahead. And she starts doing some paperwork behind me. And I go, no, 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 no. I'm about to phone companies. And she goes, I'll be quiet. And I go, no, 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 no. I don't want you to hear me phoning companies. She goes, oh, you're afraid. You don't want me to hear you. And I go, exactly. I get out of here. So she goes, okay. So she leaves, shuts the door. And I go, you're standing right there behind the door. She goes, and I hear her prance down the hall and go, no, I'm not. Yes, she was. So in the beginning, I was very frightened. And everyone who calls company, Ann Palmer, I see you the same way when you first started calling companies. But after a while, you just kind of go, you know what? Some will.
Oh, you're on mute, Tony. You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. I would say this. I would say something along the lines of, and again, I like the Dave Savola thing where you can do them in any order. But I would say that we have, over 100,000 companies that we work with that are clients. So that's bringing small business plans and the group benefits together. So you can say we got about 100,000 corporate clients with companies like yours. So you brought in that commonality. You might have a field trainer that can have you list off a couple companies in town. And you can name off this one and this one and this one. And what I wanted to do was take 15 minutes and show you why so many companies have our service to increase their employees' productivity, to help with keeping them on the job, to make your benefit package look good so you retain the employees. Again, it takes 15 minutes and then that's about it. And if the person's fun, then I'll say, hey, all the cool companies are doing it. You should do it too. And then I'll laugh, I mean, it doesn't matter what I say if I'm doing the numbers because the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. But again, 15 minutes, something I want to show you. You may or may not be interested. You could say those types of things. But again, I'm going to say over 100,000 companies already said yes. There's no cost to you. We're approved in all 50 states. Boom. Can I show it to you? And then when they say, what is it? That's exactly what I want to go over with you. Our company is called Legal Shield Business Solutions. We'll show you exactly what it is in 15 minutes. I mean, and I can do those in any order. Go ahead, Karen. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think that was really good. And you just got to practice. You've got to do the numbers. I think maybe Ann Palmer and Ron Chambers could add what they do. Just a little idea. Would you mind contributing what you do, Ann?
Hey, Karen, thank you. Tony said it all, actually. I'm going to follow his lead. However, I think that when we're cold calling on companies, it's a little bit tough, especially if you're a rookie in the business. So you do have to practice. You have to really, I think, take a lot of the trainings that we have available on LS Engage and our training areas. But I think as a veteran, and I've been doing this for 22 years, almost as long as Tony, I think that you just have to develop a relationship with the persons you're calling on, and then foster that relationship, and then you can do more and more. But I think that I like the way Tony does his, because he says things like, he keeps it open-ended. He doesn't let them talk too much. I know Tony, he doesn't let them talk too much. So to be able to just lead them and not follow them, but lead them to the next answer that they need to have is very paramount in this business. And you want to always give them something that they need, that what I would say is it's inquisitive. They want to know more. So
Okay.
I just think that you need to, I'm not sure. I'm kind of babbling a little bit, but
I think what you're saying, Ann, is after you get the account, you create a relationship with the key people.
definitely. Yeah.
And you keep that in good standing, because otherwise it's just all that effort goes nowhere.
You have to do a touch with your HR person more than once a year. I know some of us have a lot of clients and we have to do a more than one touch per year, but they need to hear from us in order to invite us in the next year. So we're, it's not too far from open enrollment for those of us in the employee benefits arena. So we need to start right now, probably getting in touch with them and leading them to the next level of conversation.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, let's go over to Mr. Ron Chambers. He also works in that division. Ron, do you have some ideas of what you do?
Yeah, I think the best thing that Tony said was that if you phone a lot of companies, you'll figure it out. Everybody gets hung up on what they're saying and all that. And you gotta, have a plan. Don't get me wrong. And, learn from people like Tony and Ann and others who have had success and kind of copy them a little bit, put it in your own flavor, but just do the activity. And then I agree with Ann also about the relationship part. The first relationship in my mind that you have to make is with somebody who you can call a workout partner. Because I don't care whether I'm in, exercise activity or phoning activity. If I have a workout partner, I'm going to do a lot better. I'm just being transparent with you. When I'm left to myself, I'll give up a lot easier than I am when I'm working with somebody. And I'll leave you with this. When I came to Tony, I'm 22 years in the business too, you guys. April 6th was my 22nd anniversary. And so early on, I kind of got in a position where I was worked my way up to executive director. And then all of a sudden I was a director with 3 directors. So I wasn't getting the overrides and I wasn't making enough money. So I went to Tony and I said, hey man, what do you think I should do? And he said, well, you should start doing some group. Because I wasn't doing group when I came into business. That was not my intention. My intention was to build a large organization, but I needed to live and make money. And so what he said was, we're going to talk every day at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you'll tell me how it went the day before, what your numbers were, how many dials you made, how many people you talked to, how many appointments you got. And maybe, something that you ran up against when you were talking to somebody, so I could try to coach you through this thing. I said, okay. And so we did that for like a year and a half, every Monday through Friday. And it turned into more than just helping me. It just turned into having such a great relationship with my mentor and looking forward to each day to report to him the good things that I did, because over time I got better. And here I am. I've sold over 6,000 memberships, which is not I'm not the top producer in the company, but I got a 6-figure residual income.
That's
And
pretty
it's
good.
just, you just go to work. You go to work every day, you do the deal, push everything out of your way, and make the dials.
And I like that. Thank you so much, Ron. That's great advice. And I love the fact that Tony says all the cool companies are doing it.
Yeah, that was great.
I like that. So does anybody have any other questions? We were going to be back next week on Monday with another guest speaker and some other key principles. So go out there and be a champion in your life. Go check out www.shieldnation.com. They have now up the commission calculator. They also have the under new, what's new, they have the residual income figured out. It's really cool. So anyway, with that, unless somebody has a question, we'll call it a wrap. Okay, thank you, everybody who contributed. We'll see you later. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Tony,
Good
I
night,
love
all.
that.